batting, number 69. 0 for 1 for him here in this one. First pitch on its way. Swung on and hit deep to left center. This one has a chance. And that'll get down out there for extra bases. And the runner is in from second. In to score is the runner from first. It's a 2-0 ball game.
This thing was a double or more the second it left his bat. He really drove it well, and it ended up one-hopping the wall out there. And more importantly, he picks up 2 RBI along the way.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this video in which we are going to be talking about a sports balls game. I know I don't usually talk about sports games on this channel, and I also know that people tend to be a bit surprised when they hear that I'm a big fan of sports games, because I spend most of my life playing RPGs and visual novels and Hatsune Miku things. Sports games seem a little bit out of that field, out of left field so to speak, but I am actually a big fan of sports. I've been playing sports, actual physical sports, since I was a kid. And I've been playing video games for basically as long. I remember playing Super Nintendo and Game Boy sports games and all of that with my brothers and stuff as I was growing up. So yeah, it's a passion of mine, and I do try to keep up to date with most of the major properties. I don't play every year. I do believe that because these games have this kind of incremental improvement from one year to the next, you can kind of leave them for 3 or 4 years, come back, and you'll actually see a big difference from the last time that you played one. And that's certainly the case with the MLB The Show series as well. The last one I played would have been back on the PlayStation 3, possibly the first one on the PlayStation 4 I think I played. And also the Vita was the last time I picked up one of these games from this series. So I figured it was time to catch up and see what changes have been made. And yeah, the changes are pretty significant actually. This game is a lot different to what the last one I played was. And while for the most part it's quite good, I do believe that there's a serious issue with sports games now, and I want to use this video to discuss that. You can read my review of the general game on digitallydownloaded.net. I'll have that up within the next day or so. But for the purposes of this video, I really wanted to talk about one particular issue while you're watching me play some very lovely baseball shots. So for the longest time, sports games were quite simple in what they offered players. You would be able to play a single match if you just wanted to play a multiplayer thing. You could play it locally, offline, and later on, of course, you could play it online. And on top of that, you had a various number of kind of career modes to play through. There was an actual career mode where you'd often get to take a single player and, you know, drive their career from the rookies right through the ranks to the very top of their teams, and perhaps even international competition. And you also had the opportunity to play a kind of seasonal mode where you would take your favorite team and hopefully win enough matches to make the playoffs and eventually win the whole thing. And that was really enough, to be honest. Unless you're a super hardcore fan of these sports, it was just enough to enjoy a sport that you enjoyed watching or playing, perhaps, in video game form. You weren't really looking for that much more. But over the last generation or so, I think things have morphed quite a lot, and it's at the expense of the playability of these games. So for example, MLB The Show 20, you're about to see a clip of everything that's going on. There are so many statistics to manage in the player career mode. There are so many items that you can get. There's all these cards that get thrown at you. There's daily login bonuses, and you're just constantly having data and information thrown at you at such a rate that it is really impenetrable. For the longest time, you don't really get a sense that you're getting into MLB unless you've basically been playing it every year, so you know basically what to expect, and then the updates are relatively minor. But if it's been a couple of years since you last played one, you're just hit with this wall of information which is so hard to get through, and it really is to the detriment of the quality of the rest of the game, because all of a sudden you spend so much time at the start, at the front end of the game, just reading through things, trying to understand where everything fits in, trying to create your character, trying to get the career mode off, and trying to work through the menu system as well. The menu system is just really impenetrable. Like, I just wanted to play a season with my favorite team, And I couldn't for the life of me figure out which was that mode. There was this one that was promising you to play kind of custom tournaments, but that was with friends. I didn't want to play online. I don't want to play these games online. I like to play them offline against either the AI or a local multiplayer. I don't want to take these games online because that's not the experience I'm looking for. And that option didn't seem to be there. Right there, that's the daily login bonus, and then there's all these shows, and then this tile system. Just what do they all mean? Some are online, some are offline, some are vague about what's actually involved. You go into them, and then you go through this whole tutorial process, and it's just exhausting. Before you even get into a match, it is exhausting. Once you get into your career mode, this is the player career mode. There are all these different statistics to track, and there's also this perk system with this whole leveling up skill tree, and so on and so forth. I think this stuff is appealing to people who, really like absolutely love the sport, live for the sport, and basically only play the sports game. Like this, if MLB is your hobby, then the depth that's in this one is kind of impressive. But for people who just want to play a baseball game, this really isn't it. And the biggest problem of all is the sports game kind of industry is so consolidated that if this isn't the one that you're playing, you haven't really got that many other options. There's the RBI series, but it's consistently terrible. It's not much fun to play at all. And it goes too far the other way, which is it's just an arcade game that you just play over 152 matches, or however many matches there are in the season these days. And that's not particularly engaging over the long term. The best baseball games of yesteryear let you play through full seasons, but had some basic stuff in there too, like trades, where you could just pick a player you didn't like anymore, sell them off, get some money or whatever, and then or offer to trade that player to another team. And it was all quite rudimentary. You didn't necessarily want the full management experience, because if you did want that, you could actually buy a manager game, but you wanted some kind of light stuff in there, and older baseball games offered that, but MLB The Show takes things way too far, and it just becomes impenetrable, whereas the only other competition really for this game takes things the other way and isn't particularly engaging because it's so simple. So because the market is so consolidated and there's really only 2 baseball games to choose between, you're kind of stuck. You have to be a super hardcore baseball fan, or you've got to settle for something that isn't particularly engaging. And I think that's not just a problem with baseball by any means. It's also a problem with basketball, even though there's 2 EAs trying to compete with 2K Games with their basketball property. But Madden only has the one. There's only really the one ice hockey game. I know there's a bunch of indie stuff kind of in that very B tier, but in terms of top quality sports games, you've got one property to choose between, and that's kind of it. And it is an issue because, I mean, if you look at other genres, if you're a fan of strategy games, you've got a dozen different types of strategy games to choose between. If you're a fan of RPGs, you've got a dozen different RPGs to choose between. There's actually a bit of healthy competition driving the creativity of those genres, whereas there's one baseball game, and it is, I mean, you could say, well, you could choose a FIFA game instead, but FIFA and baseball aren't exactly the same thing. Soccer and baseball are very different sports with very different appeals for different people. So it actually does matter whether there's competition in the individual sport as well, and there just isn't with this space. And the biggest frustration of all is that this is a really good game. Once you get through all of that nonsense, and it does take a while, it took me the better part of the weekend to get comfortable with this game, but once you get through that, it's a great game of baseball, and the on-the-field stuff is really good quality. There's so many different options in terms of how you want to play the pitching and the batting alike, that you'll find something that's really comfortable, and there's a really good tutorial system for the on-field game, which lets you kind of try everything and get familiar with the kind of the mechanics that you like within a couple of minutes, really. I'd chosen my batting style within about 2 minutes, my pitching style within another couple of minutes, and then I was set to go. And the onboarding's great. Once you're on the field, the mechanics are great. There's incredible physics, of course. It really does feel like the tiniest degree of difference between a good pitch and a poor pitch is the difference between a home run or a foul shot or an out. So the the on-field stuff is just so excellent and so well designed and so well developed that all that stuff off the field and the way that it feels like it's there to kind of encourage people to be ongoing players and payers really does kind of hurt, because this game could have been so much more. And I do remember the last MLB game that I played had elements of this stuff. It had card packs, I think. It's a bit vague now, it's been quite a few years since I played it, but I think it had ways to make money out of players after the base game purchase. But it was nowhere near as extended as this, and it was nowhere near as menu heavy driven as this, that you had to spend so much time outside of the game before you could get into your next match. And MLB is by no means the only game that does this. FIFA over the last couple of years has really started to lose me, because I feel like it's trying to push me to buy those damn packs of cards to such an extent that the rest of the game is kind of being forgotten about and pushed to the periphery, and the stuff that I play the sports games for is definitely no longer the focus of the developer. I haven't played a basketball game for quite some time because 2K Games has turned their controls into this unmanageable mess of button presses that I just can't get my head around. It's more complex than a fighting game, but it again feels much the same. It's just this so heavily loaded on the menu driven stuff and the gameplay modes and this content for content's sake that it just it's frustrating to just get into a match and you just want to play basketball. You just want to shoot balls at a hoop. The developers make it so hard to do so now because there's no monetization for that, and it drives me insane. But anyway, that's enough of that. Like I said, I actually do really like this game. I'm going to give it like 4 out of 5 stars, I think. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I'm thinking about that score. I really think that this is a great game because once you get into the baseball, it's really worth playing. Anyway, thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. I hope you do. And please do consider backing me on Patreon because that support means a lot. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one.